So I used to work for a venue where we used to host lots of kind of live events. And as part of that job, I used to meet music stars, actors, comedians, presenters. Doing that, I learned quite a few things that surprised me. So number one, celebrities look way worse than you would expect. Now, I know that sounds super harsh. I'm not saying that anyone looks ugly. I'm not saying it even matters how anyone looks. I'm no oil painter myself. What I would say is that I have been in the room with some of the publicly declared sexiest people in the world. I kind of went into those situations expecting to almost be blown away, and I wasn't really. And what I mean by that is that they are still very good looking, but you will meet people in your day-to-day life that are just as good looking. I think that's for probably a couple of reasons. I think one of the things that you're looking at is like, there's a lot of human beings, but the sort of standard deviation between any of us is actually incredibly small. If you think so-and-so is like a huge kind of like amazingly attractive guy, there's probably someone in your office that's not much less good looking than that person. There's definitely someone in your town or city. There's just not enough separation between any of us. I know people always say, oh, like celebrities are shorter than you expect. I think what they're really trying to say by that is it's just kind of less impressive, which is a good thing, I think, that they are more like everyday people. I think what we see a lot of the time is the machine behind them. So whenever you see a celebrity, you're seeing them when perfect lighting, they've had all the perfect makeup, all the perfect kind of dressing. They've been taken out of a normal context and put into some kind of exotic context so that you're meant to go, oh my God, wow, they don't exist in the same universe that I do. And then they're also kind of, let's be honest, photoshopped within an inch of their lives. Like, I know there's that meme about like, you're not ugly, you're poor. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. But beyond that, it's like, you're not ugly, you're just real. When someone's like a chart-topping artist or a huge selling artist, you sort of expect them to be incredibly talented. Like, you expect them to be better than you've ever heard from anyone else. So you presume that these people that make it, the people that make it are so far and beyond what a normal person could do. And I've seen in the flesh some very, very big artists when they haven't got all of that production. The difference in quality between them and like quite a good regional band that books a lot of the pubs locally, the difference is very minimal. Again, it's that standard deviation thing. Like, a lot of people can sing quite well, and actually a prerequisite of being quite a popular artist isn't even to be the best singers. The backing singers blow you away. They are better. But the actual main kind of acts aren't even the best singer on the stage. That's obviously why record labels sort of spend so much money on advertising, or with actors, they have such big PR teams or presenters or comedians, that there's so much of a media operation, such a big machine that goes into it. And that is something that becomes very apparent whenever you see any kind of famous person, the amount of people that come with them, the entourage, whether it's the stylists or like the makeup artists or the manager or the agent. There's a lot that goes into all of it to make them feel bigger than life. And I think we buy into that. Another thing I would see when working with celebrities, sort of how unhappy a lot of them seem. I guess in my head, you're living the dream, you've done something that most people will never achieve, earning so much money, you're so adored. I think these people would walk around like they're walking on air. But so many of them, what you see, a certain level of unease, of uncertainty, where they are feeling that their position's quite precarious. They've grown up their whole lives being them. And so they're in a world now where everyone sort of thinks they're special, but to themselves, they're probably not that special, and they have to try and find a way to sort of feel like that. I think as well, it can be quite grueling. I know no one wants to feel sorry for the celebrities, but they're away from their families a lot of the time, they're away from their friends. A lot of the people that they're surrounded by, they're just people that want something from them. They have lots of hangers on. I guess they don't know who they can trust. They seem quite lonely. It seems like quite a lonely existence as well. So not all celebrities are like that. I've seen some people seem to be having the best time. If you see an artist that's like on the come up, they tend to be way more like, this is incredible. They're easier to work with. They're kinder to work with. Sometimes what you will see is you meet someone on the come up, they're incredible. You meet them a few years later, a totally different person. One of the things that you do notice is it's the celebrities that seem to have less grounding or are less famous. They are the ones that tend to be the most difficult. Typically, I would say that sort of influencers or TV presenters can be the most demanding. And I think that probably comes from insecurity, being in a show, and how long can they kind of eke that out, or can they turn that into a career? I think they think that no one thinks they have substance, if that makes sense. And so they almost have to overdo it. It's like we're rewarded being difficult. So the more difficult you are, the more artistic credibility that you have, integrity that you have. So Nepo babies are interesting. They can be a bit like that, where you sometimes get these Nepo babies who will obviously feel insecure, that they know the whole world's thinking that they would only have that role because of who their parents are. And so they will sometimes go above and beyond, give you the whole sort of tortured artist approach. they can sometimes go the other way and surprise you, which is be super ultra professional and quite unnervingly so. Not like almost take it for granted. Like I remember one time, like whenever you get like someone who's on the come up, like I said, they can be more excitable. And sometimes when you see them at their first kind of gig, they can be very super nervous or whatever. Like, you know, there's just a nervous kind of energy about them. You think, okay, just be slightly careful. And I remember this one artist who like had very famous parents. I guess people would describe them as a Nepo baby. They sort of came in super relaxed. They weren't difficult with anyone, but they weren't particularly warm either. They didn't seem particularly excited. They were just very, very professional, which is great. We love professional. Just walk through the whole day and you're like, there's like no nerves here whatsoever. And I guess when you think about it, why would there be? Because that's probably the environment that they're growing up with, that they've been always going off to gigs and venues and whatever. When it comes to doing it to them, it's just like another day. They've been trained from birth. So something else that surprised me was that most acts are nothing like their kind of public persona. Like so much of their lives are controlled, deliberately manicured presence, the product version of themselves that they put forward, and who they are, or their family or their friends, or even in the workplace with colleagues or whatever, can be very, very different. The most disappointing person I worked with, there was this band coming to the venue who, like, I loved. Like, I'd listened to them growing up. They were quite formative for me, and I was very excited about, you know, be around that sort of thing. I was very, very excited. Now, that said, there is a sort of professional line that they're doing a job. They're in a professional environment. I would never go and ask someone for a photo, or I'd never even sort of speak to someone or an autograph or what, you know, whatever. Unless the job's sort of required, I would never cross that line because they are trying to do a job, and that's unprofessional. That's the line that I had no expectation of any kind of interaction. Anyway, I was there, and one of the members of this band needed something, and I was called over by the manager to come and see this person, and the manager sort of introduced me and said, oh, this is so-and-so, he can help you with that. I guess kind of instinctively, like you do when you get introduced to someone, I sort of extended my hand and said like, hey, I'm so-and-so, the member of this band. Sort of looked down at my hand and grunted. I almost want to say sneered. I remember having to like awkwardly like retract my hand and just wanting to disappear into the ground. That wasn't me like, you know, trying to be like, oh, hello, like, you know, that wasn't me trying to overdo it. Like, it was just an instinctual thing that you would do when you meet any human being. Yeah, I can't even listen to that music anymore without sort of cringing at the moment, but also just sort of feeling in a different way about it. I guess around all of that, what I would say is I have had some good interactions, but in general, you know, the saying about don't meet your heroes, I think that's probably quite good advice. In fairness to them, because they're only human beings anyway, right? And if you go about your day-to-day life, you meet some nice people, but you meet some people that are kind of unpleasant, but it still kind of stings a bit more. It can be quite intimidating, like working with big-name talent. That talent will dictate the tone of the entire experience. If you ever worked in an environment where someone shouts and screams, and you're just like, oh, okay, you walk around on eggshells. It's that kind of vibe. I think it must be hugely odd to be famous. And I think actually what I find most odd about fame is that if you spoke to most people and asked them, what would you like to be? What do you want to do? They'd be like, oh, I'd love to be famous. And it's one of those things where you want something without having any idea of what it actually entails. And I think a lot of people, if they did become famous, would be like, oh, I don't know if I really want this. And then you can't undo it. And that's not something that human beings have always lived with, is it? For the most part, throughout human history, you could be kind of notorious or famous within your town or within your city, but we never had the idea that you'd be known to millions and billions. That's still a relatively sort of new thing, which must be incredibly difficult to deal with, I guess, and just very unusual. But either way, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please do like and subscribe.